Welcome in to the Crypto Bunker podcast. Today, I want to talk about Bitcoin and why you should consider having Bitcoin as a portion of your investment portfolio. Um, because I think for me, in the past uh, year and a half, I've sort of left Bitcoin in the past and sort of avoided it. And in the past couple weeks, I've started to dig into it a little bit more and to sort of get a better idea of what they've been talking about really the past year and a half and why it makes sense to own Bitcoin. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take any of this financial advice. But I basically left Bitcoin ideology for dead a few years ago, and it's cool to really revisit the whole reason that I entered crypto, and that's to avoid monetary debasement. And when the Fed printed $3 trillion in a second during COVID, that made me it woke a lot of people up, and it definitely woke me up, and I started to look into gold, silver, and then eventually came to Bitcoin, and then eventually came to Ethereum, and then eventually came to all these other coins that I've invested in the past. And I think essentially I've made the mistake of not sticking to a certain thesis or a certain um, basically just buying and selling. And it hasn't been healthy for me or for my capital necessarily. I mean, I obviously, you guys know that we sold, near the top, if you were following me, for, I would say it was probably about $4,000 ETH when we sold. And then through that whole multi-month period where we were up in that region again, I was telling people to sell as well. And that turned out to be very right. and and now we're back. And in terms of like, is the bottom in? I think it might be. Um, I think that was a pretty hard capitulation. Um, we can definitely look at the charts and kind of try to analyze what's going on because I do think it's important. And what we see really is we look at these moving averages. I once again focus on these because, um, as we talked about, when these are wide, you want to sell, and when they're skinny, that's when you want to buy, right? And again, they were wide here, and then we can see what happened, right? We can see exactly how this bottom played out, how this rally played out, and then how we kind of came back where because even this was still sort of playing this out the 2017 rally in terms of the moving averages, sort of winding along and then getting skinny again, so that and then in order, and then so we could go up again. And we're still very far away from that, but we did go quickly. So we can say that this happened a lot quicker than this. This for the yellow to cross the red or to get near the red, which it never really crossed. I think this is the first time this has happened. But that was April of 2019, and this was December of 17. So it was really year and a half that it took for this to happen. And in this scenario, this only took about a year. And um, so we got, 6 months ahead of schedule. And so if you think about it that way, in terms of if we have bottomed, we could see a rally where we kind of go up to this sort of 40K range, 38K, maybe up in the 30K to 38 to 40K, somewhere up in there, and we sort of reset these moving averages, and then we come back down and we sort of retest the 20K region again. And I think that it depends what you want. You know, if you're a patient investor, like, you know, like I'm trying to be, you would want to um, dollar cost average in here or probably buy here. Um, and then you would probably want to either continue to dollar cost average like I'm going to do. And basically, my plan is to dollar cost average for the next 24 months into Bitcoin because I already have my silver allocation. I already have my gold allocation. I already have my Ethereum allocation. I don't really have a Bitcoin allocation. I have a small one that I'm just starting to build up again. And so that's why um, that seems like the fourth horseman, I guess, of the financial apocalypse that I think that we're going through. Um, and I would rather own those assets than any other assets possible. You know, I don't want to own stocks. I don't want to own bonds. I don't, you know, um, I just don't want to own anything that's paper assets. And Ethereum and Bitcoin are physical in nature, even though they're digital, especially Bitcoin. And recently recently we also had Ethereum. We had to, you know, come out with like this crazy roadmap. Um, and I just had this kind of realization that, you know, Ethereum does seem to be like basically, I don't even know anymore. You know, like the amount of different parts of I think they even added another part of the roadmap just yesterday. So it's the merge, the surge, the scourge, the verge, the purge, the splurge. Before I thought it was just the surge, the verge, the purge, the splurge, but now I'm seeing the scourge, which I haven't seen that I don't think before. Um, but the amount of um yeah, the scourge is new, and this is to ensure reliable and fair, credibly neutral transaction inclusion, solve MEV issues. The next thing that they're going to do is withdrawals, but the merge itself isn't even done according to Vitalik. I mean, we can look at it now. I mean, we can't really see it that well, but you can just see how detailed of the thing this is. And so what I'm saying is that essentially what you're doing investing in Ethereum is you're investing in a tech company. You're relying on developers to do a certain amount of work. You're investing in software, right? You're investing in software where the we have Vitalik sort of at the top who is giving this plan, and we have the developers who then have to execute the plan, shift the plan around. I mean, think about how long it took to do the merge, right? We thought the merge was going to happen in um you know, late 2021, I guess. I mean, we had the Beacon Chain launch in 2020, and we definitely thought that it was going to be the end of 2021. It turns out it was a year late because of how many tests they had to go through. Um, and so look at all of these other things, and the merge isn't even done. They only did this first part. This is where we are right here. So now we're going to withdrawals, right? And just how many things, the encompassing nature of this is a lot. And so there's so many risk factors, right? There's so many risk points. So it's not something that like I think I can just go all in on, but I do have, you know, my ETH allocation that I've made to the staking mechanism that I can't withdraw. And you know, I'm probably just going to leave that stake for a long time, forever, because I do trust the developers to execute the plan that Vitalik is setting down. And actually, I also want to highlight Polkadot, because they just did something recently that is very interesting. They they actually, and see if I can find it. I can find it because I have it, but um they actually just met with the, well, okay, so they've been meeting with the SEC for apparently for years here. The Web3 Foundation, and this is why, again, that I have invested in Polkadot in the past, and I probably will have a small allocation to Polkadot. I probably just am going to own 100 DOT tokens and call it a day. That would cost about $700 right now, which is still cheap. I mean, I'm probably just going to wait it out and see if I can get it down at like $4. That was kind of my original plan, and I'm probably going to stick with that plan regardless of what happens. Um, there's no like supply constraint like there is with Ethereum or Bitcoin that is like makes me afraid that this is like never going to come back. We have the, if it does go to like $12, which I think it could in the short term, um, I'm not really afraid of that. I think eventually we will come back to test this region. So even if I'm getting it at like $5 or $6, that's probably where I'm headed. And maybe I'll just dollar cost average into it. I don't know. But again, I don't really believe it. I believe that investing in Polkadot is investing in software. It's not investing in money. And that's kind of where I found this little glitch in my thinking with Ethereum and some of these tokens, is that I don't really look at them as money necessarily. I think ETH is more money than anything else besides Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is like true money because it can't be changed. It can't be altered. So you can save in that, right? Like Ethereum, yeah, you can save in Ethereum, but you're saving in a software company. Like you're saving your money in a stock, basically, in a security. And that's why I think, Gary Gensler has said that Ethereum could be a security. Um, but now that Polkadot has now come out and said they are actually software, Dot has morphed into software. After 3 years of proactive engagement with the SEC, the Web3 Foundation announces a landmark step towards the achievement of Web3, a decentralized, trustless, serverless internet. In November 2019, the digital regulatory climate was tense. When W3F, the Web3 Foundation, first approached FinHub, the SEC had recently filed its complaint against Telegram. The FinHub staff's framework for investment contract analysis of digital assets had been published. On the heels of many other SEC enforcement actions and announcements, including its 21A report of its investigation, the Dow report, the Munchie cease and desist order, and the Kick decision, over the next 3 years, the Web3 Foundation experience was a positive one. They met regularly with the SEC and attempted to break new ground and comply with U.S. federal securities laws with respect to the offer and sale, marketing delivery to initial purchasers, and treatment of retail purchasers in line with public companies. And so this is cool. Apparently they are not a security. I think that is sort of interesting in terms of like obviously the future. So we can, I guess, I mean, apparently guarantee that Polkadot isn't actually a security now, which is big for Polkadot investors and long-term investors in this project. And again, these are my lines I have drawn. I want this bottom. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I mean, I could feel comfortable investing at this level and just kind of holding for 10 years. If you stake your dot, you can earn 12% on that dot. So, you could just earn like 12 dot a year, and then you have that for 10 years. And I think it's like constantly compounding. And then all of a sudden you have, 400 dot, in 10 years. And, who knows? And this is, again, it's a risk. This is a risky thing. I'm not saying that, and I think that's the difference. And that's where I want to come back to, again, Bitcoin, which actually has a chart that's very similar to Polkadot, which is also similar to Amazon in the 2000 tech boom and bust. And so we can look at that sort of comparison actually too, which I think would be, cool, because I've done this with Polkadot but I have not done this with Amazon and Bitcoin. I think I've talked about how they're similar, but I haven't actually gone ahead and compared them. So, we can look at that now. And this is kind of why I have these lines drawn all the way back here, is that this actually does look very similar um, to this. And we're looking at this on a weekly time frame. We can see we had a rally, first rally, dip, second rally, dip, chop, up, down, and then a higher high, but slightly same exact thing, and then just all the way down. In this case, I think it went down 90% or something like that. Bitcoin hasn't quite got there yet, and I've always said that there could be one more lower low for Polkadot, which I think is kind of the same for Bitcoin. So this is a possibility as well, to see Bitcoin rally to 24K, get rejected at the 200-week moving average, and then go down to 14K, or just double bottom at 17K. But I mean, I think it's just it's a solid time to just accumulate. But yeah, I mean, we could see that again, this kind of rallied up and didn't, and kind of came back and did test this level that would be equivalent to like that 20K level for Bitcoin. But if you continue to accumulate over these 10 years, you were rewarded for many years to come. Obviously, we know what this thing did. It just continued to rally all the way. So that's kind of what I see the possibility for Bitcoin being. Um, Obviously, it seems crazy now, but this is very early days. Um, we see the thing also is that we see the bond market collapsing, and I think that that's something that Bitcoin will pick up on eventually, because Bitcoin obviously is an immutable money that can't be changed, and it's secure. It's very secure, right? So you basically have guaranteed property rights with Bitcoin. You know exactly what you hold. You know exactly what the future holds. You have guaranteed property rights if you take possession of your own coins on your ledger, which you always should do. Um, you can guarantee property rights. And there's not many things in the world that can guarantee that, because of laws and regulations, and things can change. But with Bitcoin, they would have to shut the entire internet off to for extended period of time, for something to happen forever, basically, for something to happen. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but it's probably like a 0.5% chance or something that that would ever happen here. And so, look at what's going on in the bond market. Okay, this is what is happening to your IRA, your retirement account. Many people don't know this. From here at the top, we're down 50%. Okay, so um, most people have a 50% allocation to this in their retirement accounts. So, I mean, those people are really in trouble here. Most people are traditional managers of money. They don't understand this new system that we're in, because they weren't managing money in the 1970s. And that's why I think in this new era of like 1970s to 1980s type inflation, and the Fed sort of continuing to try to raise rates to bat that inflation, they're not going to be able to in the long term. And that basically means that bonds are just done. And you can see that they're essentially finished. We also have foreign countries selling their bonds on a constant basis. And I think what's happening is that the Saudis, who have held American Treasury bonds for years, are one of the main sellers here. And so, I'm putting that out as a possibility. They're sort of weaponizing their oil, and we are weaponizing our interest rates. And so the battle is being fought really on this chart, which is the oil chart, which to me looks very good. And I actually bought this dip in a retirement account that I managed for someone else down here at the low, and in terms of commodities. and now we see that we're ripping again in commodities. Um, this could ultimately play out as a double top, but I just think that more likely, I mean, you can see we're wide, right? A little bit, but we're also not that wide, and we're also just kind of starting. So this could be like a one last rally, one last sort of blow off potentially. We did have a death cross here on oil, but and we're coming right into that. So I mean, but we did pass it. We passed the 20-week, or I mean, we might even be right on it. Essentially, we're right on it, but we did pass it by a little bit. So this is sort of a breakout. We could see like a double bottom, but just in terms of supply, I don't see this um getting any lower. So I just think that it's time to start accumulating a Bitcoin position for me, and that's just for me. It doesn't need to be for you. But I mean, if we let's look at like how, so this is like, say, half the size of this. Okay. So we take half the size of this. This is where we want those moving averages to be, right? Right. When we start accumulating again. And I mean, I guess that is kind of where they are, right? If you can compare it to how wide they were here, and then you take half, and how wide they were here, and you take half, you know, yeah, maybe that makes sense. I mean, that's why I'm saying I think it's time, because we have the 20-week crossing the 200, which just means that you're pretty much oversold, especially this is a weekly time frame. So, um, it's never happened before. Actually, Bitcoin has always caught support at the 200 week, for it to dip below is like a new thing in history. And we can even look at like the Bitcoin rainbow chart, because it sort of shows like how oversold we are. I think it's probably like, I don't know if it's below it at this point. They may have added a layer, but it's definitely in the lower regions. It's in the basically a fire sale, um, you know, region. And we've only been there like through here and through here. We're kind of like even below it right now. And so, where I expect us to be, I mean, we could see after the halving, down here, usually we top somewhere. I mean, I guess they're saying the next thing is supposed to be $1 million. I don't really think that's the case. Um, I do see, I'll show you guys the possibility that I'm looking at for the future. If we do the same thing that we did last time, we could see um, basically what I'm looking at is last time we hit the 3618. So we're looking at like 200,000. I don't see that as like unreasonable for the situation that we're in. That would only be like 3.5 trillion. That's not even that big, really, compared to the entire financial system that is collapsing. But we can see that on this chart here, this is exactly how this played out. We can see that we hit the exact 3618 on this top at 69K. So if someone was, I mean, I wish I just knew all this stuff back then, because at this point I was just euphoric. And I actually mostly did get out like at, around, this region with ETH, but, in terms of at least like leverage and stuff, but then I was leveraging again and I got out again here, but it was a roller coaster. But I mean, you can see that these were key levels, right? 50K. We can see 32K was a key level down here. And so this is kind of, I think, what people have used. Wow, you can even see, look at that. That was the bottom. And so that is a key thing, because look at where we hit right here. We hit exactly 17,171, which is the point 176 of this rally. Okay, so that's interesting. And so now we can look like, okay, what are the next key levels? And so what we can see, and we're just taking it from the start of the rally, and then we're going and we're just touching as many trend lines as we can, and we're taking that 17K bottom. So what could we see? We could see a rally to this 236, which is 30K. We see that that's a key level. And then, these are the levels we have to compete with sort of through the bear until the next halving. And then, we can see demand potentially increase. And then by, the next sort of rally, we could see, I think, these levels 100. I mean, at least the 1618, 100K, I think would be logical. That is probably around like, 1.7 trillion, something like that. So that's still like nothing compared to, again, I mean, it's something you want to have as part of your portfolio. And it's as simple as that because it doesn't need to be a large percentage and you just have to hold on for a long time. Because we know that this is the solution to a lot of problems in the world. And the Federal Reserve has really created these problems. And we need Bitcoin to, um, Bitcoin could solve those problems because you can't print more of it. So it actually creates savings. People want to save in Bitcoin, and when they start saving in Bitcoin, they actually find that they have more hope in the future because that you're saving in an asset that can't be debased and that can't be messed with. Um, and as long as you don't sell, you just buy and hold, you don't need to worry about taxes. Um, so yeah, I mean, it just allows people to be creative and find their creative expression. Just people that, again, it doesn't steal your willpower. Um, Bitcoin allows you to be disciplined. It allows you to be free. It allows you to have immutable property rights, which is different than even owning your home. If you think about it, right? If you own your home, um, you know, you they could change the laws on you. They could change the zoning laws. They could, increase your taxes. Um, they can say, okay, we're at war. We need your farmland. They could say there's a new, whatever the regulation is. You could say you're a terrorist or something. But in the end, with Bitcoin, all you need to remember is your 12 words of your password of your ledger. And you can throw your ledger in a lake. And all you have to do is if you remember those 12 words, you can then eventually, if you have access to the internet, you can type those 12 words in to a site and then um, you would have your Bitcoin in a different country. So that's all you need. And it's the first time you can ever hold your wealth in your head. Um, and this is the same with Ethereum, but Bitcoin is more secure and less regulation intensive. Um, for example, with Ethereum, like Coinbase and Kraken have this large amount of Ethereum because people are staking, like me, with them by mistake because I was a noob back then. But um, people are staking with them, and so they are validating transactions, but they are public companies. Like Coinbase is a public company, so they're sort of subject to the laws and regulations of the United States, and Bitcoin's not like that. There is public companies that are miners, but we don't need all of those miners to survive as a network. The network is more about the people who use it, the nodes. Anyone can run one. Same with Ethereum. Anyone can run a node and just check the network transactions to make sure that everything is correct. But I just think there's something to be said for all of these points that I'm trying to make about Bitcoin in relation to Ethereum. Um, and so I feel really excited to start back on my Bitcoin journey. I hope that you guys can come with me. I think that we can learn a lot. And I think that sometimes the simplicity of something like Bitcoin actually makes you go deeper and makes you sort of philosophize and wonder and come up with different ways that you can use Bitcoin to ultimately be the most free, person that you can be and ultimately save money in something that you know for a fact in 50 years will still be the same and has not been debased. And so once you figure that out, Bitcoin is hope. Um, and so hopefully you guys got something out of the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and have a great day.